Key Out of Time by Andre Norton, Chapter 8. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by R.J. Davis. Key Out of Time by Andre Norton, Chapter 8. The Free Rovers. Twilight made a gray world where one could not trace the true meaning of land and water, sea and sky. Surely the haze about them was more than just the normal dusk of coming night. Ross balanced in the middle of the skiff as it bobbed along the swell of waves inside a barrier reef. To his mind, the craft carrying the three of them and their net of supplies was too frail, rode too high. The Kerwa paddling in the bow and Locusts at the stern seemed to be content, and Ross could not, for pride's sake, question their competency. He comforted himself with the knowledge that no agent was able to absorb every primitive skill, and Kerwa's people had explored the Pacific in outrigger canoes hardly more stable than their present vessel, navigating by currents and stars. Smothering his feeling of helplessness and the slow anger that roused in him, the Terran busied himself with study of a sort. They had had the longer part of the day in the cave before Locusts would agree to venture out of hiding and paddle south. Ross, using the analyzer, had, with Locust's aid, set about learning what he could of the native tongue. Now possessed with a working vocabulary of clicked words, he was able to follow Locust's speech so that translation through the dolphins was not necessary except for complicated directions. Also, he had a more detailed briefing of the present situation on Avakaki, enough to know that they might be embarking on a mad venture. The citadel of the Poana was distinctly forbidden ground, not only for Locust people, but also for the Poana's Avakakian followers who were housed and labored in an outer ring of fortification come village. Those natives were, Ross gathered, a hereditary corps of servants and warriors, born to that status and not recruited from the native population at large. As such, they were armored by the magic of their masters. If the Poana are so powerful, Ross had demanded, why do you go with us against them? To depend so heavily on the native made him uneasy. The Hawakakian looked to Kara, one of his hands raised, his fingers sketched a sign towards the girl. With the sea maid and her magic I do not fear. He paused before adding, always has it been said of me, and to me, that I am a useless one, fit only to do women's tasks. No word weaver shall ever chant my battle deeds in the great hall of Zahur. I who am Zahur's true son cannot carry my sword in any lord's train. But now you offer me one of the great to-be-remembered quests. If I go, so may I prove that I am a man, even if I go limpingly. There is nothing the Fianna can do to me which is worse than what the Shadow has already done. Choosing to follow you, I may stand up to face Zahur in his own hall, showing that the blood of his house has not been drained from my veins because I walk crookedly. There was such bitter fire, not only in the sputtering rush of Locust's words, but in his eyes, his face, the wry twist of his lips, that Ross believed him. The Terran no longer had any doubts that the castle outcast was willing to brave the unknown terrors of the Poana keep, not just to aid Ross, whom he considered himself bound to serve by the customs of his people, but because he saw in this venture a chance to gain what he had never had, a place in his warrior culture. Shut off from the normal life of his people, he had early turned to the sea. His twisted leg had not proved a handicap in the water, and he stated with confidence that he was the best swimmer in the castle. Not that the men of his father's following had taken greatly to the sea, which they looked upon merely as a way of preying upon the true sea rovers. The reef on which the ships had been wrecked was a snare of sorts, burst by the whim of nature when wind and current piled up the trading ships there. Then Ross was startled when Locust elaborated on a later development of that trap. So Zahur returned from this meeting and set up a great magic among the rock, according to the spells he was taught. Now ships are drawn there, so the wrecks have been many, and Zahur becomes an even greater lord, with many men coming to take sword oath under him. This magic, asked Frost, of what matter is it, and where did Zahur obtain it? It is fashioned so. Locust sketched two straight lines in the air, not curved as a sword, and the color of water under a storm sky, both rods being as tall as a man. There was much care to set them in place. This was done by a man of Glickmus. A man of Glickmus? Glickmus is now the High Lord of the Iko. He is blood kin to Zahur, yet Zahur must take sword oath to send to Glickmus a fourth of all his sea gleanings for a year in payment for this magic. And Glickmus, where did he get it? From the Phalana? Locust made an emphatic denial of that. No, the Phalana has spoken out against their use, making even greater ill feeling between the Old Ones and the Coast People. It is said that Glickmus saw a great wonder in the sky and followed it to a high place of his own country. A mountain broke in twain, and a voice issued forth from the rent, calling that the lord of the country come and stand to hear it. When Glickmus did so, he was told that the magic would be his. Then the mountain closed again, and he found many strange things upon the ground. As he uses them, they make him akin to the Phalana in power. Some he gives to those who are his blood kin, and together they will be great until they close their fist not only upon the sea rovers, but upon the Phalana also. This they have come to believe. But you do not? Karara asked then. I do not know, Sea Maid. The time is coming when perhaps they shall have their chance to prove how strong is their magic. Already the Rovers gather in fleets as they never did before, and it seems that they too have found a new magic, for their ships fly through the water, depending no longer on wind-filled sails or upon strong arms of men at long paddles. There is a struggle before us, but that you must know, being who and what you are, Sea Maid. And what do you think I am? What do you think Ross is? If the Phalana dwell on land and hold old knowledge and power beyond our reckoning in their two hands, he replied, then it is possible that the same could have roots in the sea. It is my belief that you are of the shades, but not the shadow. And this warrior is also of your kind, but perhaps in different degree, putting into action your desires and wishes. Thus, if you go up against the Phalana, you shall be well matched, kind to kind. Nice to be so certain of that, Ross thought. He did not share Locust's confidence on that subject. The shades? The shadow? Carrera persisted. What are these, Locust? An odd expression crossed the Yavakian's face. Are these not known to you, Sea Maid? Indeed, then you are of a breed different from the men of land. The shades are those of power who may come to the aid of men should it be their desire to influence the future. And the shadow? The shadow is that which ends all. Man, hope, good, to which there is no appeal, and which holds a vast and enduring hatred for that which has life and full substance. So Zahur has this new magic. Is it the gift of shades or shadow? Ross brought them back to the subject, which had sparked in him a small warning signal. Zahur prospers mightily. Locust's answer was ambiguous. And so the shadow could not provide such magic, the Terran Push. But before the Avakian had a chance to answer, Carrera added another question. But you believe that it did? I do not know. Only the magic has made Zahur a part of Glickmus, and Glickmus is now perhaps a part of that which spoke from the mountain. It is not well to accept gifts which tie one man to another unless there is from the first a saying of how deep that bond may